My name is Evelina Hawthorne, and I'm 32 years old. If you'd looked at my life on paper the week everything exploded, you'd probably think I was boring in the safest way possible. Mid-level analyst job, modest two-bedroom condo in Phoenix. No kids, no roommates. One boyfriend, Adrian, who actually asks about my day and listens to the answer. On paper, it all looks fine, but papers don't show you the moment your own family decides your home is a shared resource. They don't show you the way your stomach drops when you realize the people who raised you see you less as a daughter and more as a walking emergency fund with a spare bedroom. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear more real stories like this, stories people call dramatic, until they see the bank statements and the legal documents. I didn't grow up with much. Detroit, tiny rental, thin walls, and the constant hum of worry over late bills. My parents worked hard. 2 jobs, sometimes 3, but money evaporated faster than they could earn it. I learned young that if I wanted something, no one was going to hand it to me. So I got a job at 16, then another in college. While my friends went on spring break trips to Miami, I went to my second shift. When they upgraded to nice Honda Accords, I drove a rusted-out sedan that coughed every time I hit 40. Olive Garden, just because dinners? Not for me. I knew the price of a plate of pasta in hours of work. All of that sacrifice was for one goal, my own home. 4 walls I paid for, a set of keys that belonged only to me. Years later, that dream turned into a very real, very ordinary 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood in Phoenix. It wasn't fancy. The appliances came with quirks, and the carpet was older than I wanted to know, but it was mine. Every month, I poured my paycheck into the mortgage instead of treating myself, because no treat tasted better than security. The day I made the last payment, I cried in my parked car, staring at the receipt on my phone. No more mortgage, no debt, just me, my home, and the quiet, solid feeling of knowing no one could take it away. At least that's what I thought. Enter my sister-in-law, Victoria. She married my younger brother, Blake, 5 years ago. From day one, she acted like she'd been promoted into our family, not married into it. She came from money, not rich enough for tabloids, but rich enough to look down her nose at anyone who used coupons. She had opinions about everything, the way we dressed, the cheap places we ate instead of some trendy steakhouse, the Christmas gifts that didn't match her unspoken price point. But the thing she mocked the most was my condo. "It's so small," she had said the first time she visited, wrinkling her nose like she smelled mold. "I could never live somewhere like this." I'd shrugged, hiding how much it stung. Good thing you don't have to. Fast forward a few years. My condo is paid off. I've settled into a routine I actually like. I go to work, I come home, I water the plants on my balcony, and some nights Adrian comes over and we cook something that isn't microwaved for once. Life isn't glamorous, but it's peaceful. So when Victoria showed up at my door one afternoon, alone, I should have known something was wrong. She never visited me by herself. If she was forced to share air with me, she dragged Blake along to buffer. That day, she waltzed in the moment I opened the door, eyes skating over my living room like she was appraising it. "Hi to you too," I muttered, closing the door. She didn't sit. She just stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed, chin tilted in that way she had when she was about to deliver a verdict. "We've made a decision," she announced. My stomach tightened. "About what?" "This condo." She said it slowly, like she was explaining a complex concept to a child. "It's a family asset now." I stared at her. "A what?" "A family asset," she repeated, a little louder this time, as if volume would make it make sense. "You've had it for years, and now that it's paid off, it belongs to the family. Blake and I need it more than you." I blinked. Once, twice. Then I laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a nervous giggle. A full, uncontrollable laugh that burst out of me like a shaken soda can finally opened. She frowned. "What's so funny, Evelina?" "You," I said, still catching my breath. "You actually think you can just claim my home?" Her eyes flashed. "It's not about claiming anything. It's about what's fair. We're a growing family. We have a child. You're just one person. You don't need all this space." There it was, that word, need. She waved her hand like my name on the deed was a technicality. "You can find a nice little apartment somewhere, something smaller. This place makes more sense for us." For a second, I wondered if I was on some hidden camera show, but no one jumped out yelling, "Gotcha!" Instead, Victoria kept going, piling on. Blake talked to your parents, she added. They agree this is what's best for everyone. Of course they did. My parents had always favored Blake. He was the golden child, the one they protected from consequences. I was the responsible one, the one who watched him, who gave up my turn, who swallowed my anger so the family wouldn't fight. If Blake broke something, it was somehow my fault for not supervising him. If he failed a test, it was because I didn't help him study enough. And if I ever dared to say that wasn't fair, I was making a scene. So no, it didn't surprise me that my parents backed this insanity. But for the first time, I wasn't tempted to fold. I stepped closer to Victoria until we were nearly nose to nose. Her perfume was sharp and expensive, citrus with something bitter underneath. You really want to do this? I asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. It's already done. We've decided. I dropped my voice to a whisper, leaned in so close my lips were almost at her ear, and said a single sentence. Her face drained of color. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Then a beat later, she started screaming. No way, this isn't fair. I just smiled, a laugh curling at the edges of my mouth. Fair. That was a funny word coming from people who'd never minded watching me bleed for what they wanted. What did I whisper? Let's just say this. It was the first small crack in the perfect little world Victoria thought she controlled. The first reminder that I knew things, that I had leverage, that I wasn't the quiet, obedient girl she'd mistaken me for. She thought she could take my home. She was about to learn what happens when you back the wrong woman into a corner, especially one who spent her whole life with nothing and finally has something to lose. And I had no intention of losing. By the next morning, my phone looked like it had been through a storm. 23 missed calls, 11 voicemails. Mom, Dad, Blake, an aunt I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. My cousin, who only remembers I exist when she's selling something on social media. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee, staring at the screen as it lit up again. Mom. Of course. I let it ring twice before I picked up. How could you be so selfish, Evelina? She snapped, skipping hello like it was a luxury we couldn't afford. There it was, the opening line. Good morning to you too, Mom, I said, keeping my voice calm. Your brother needs that space more than you, she barreled on. He has a child. You're alone. I rubbed my temple, feeling the beginnings of a headache. I'm not alone. Oh, you know what I mean, she said, dismissive. This isn't about you having your own place. It's about family. That condo is a family home. No, I said quietly. It's my home. I bought it. I paid for every cent. You wouldn't even have been able to do that if we hadn't raised you right, she shot back. Family raised you. Family supported you. Now family needs help. There was that word again. Need. As if all my overtime and skipped dinners and worn-out shoes had been some group project. Mom, I said, I've helped. I've helped my whole life. I helped by watching Blake when you were too tired. I helped by sharing everything I had. This isn't help. This is you asking me to hand over my home. You don't need all that space, she insisted. You can find a nice little apartment, something smaller, closer to work. It could even be good for you. Good for me. Losing the one thing I'd spent most of my life working for. Right. I already have a home, I said. This one. She gasped like I'd confessed to a crime. You used to be such a sweet girl. I don't know what happened to you. What happened? I grew up, I thought. I just didn't say it out loud. After I hung up, Dad called. His tone was calmer, but the script was the same. Think about what's best for everyone. Your brother is under a lot of stress. You're strong, honey. You can handle downsizing better than they can. They all meant the same thing. You're the responsible one. Break yourself again. We're used to it. When I didn't cave on the spot, the extended family chimed in. Text messages about doing the right thing, vague posts about selfish people forgetting where they came from, that were so transparent it made me laugh. Somewhere between my aunt's passive-aggressive Bible quote and my cousin's "Just remember, karma is real," my front door opened and closed. Adrian stepped into the kitchen, his tie still loose from work. He glanced at my phone screen lighting up on the table. Still snowing? He asked. Blizzard, I said. They've upgraded from guilt to character assassination. He pulled out a chair, sat across from me. His presence grounded me, like someone had quietly put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I thought about lying, about saying I was fine, that this was just annoying, nothing more, but my throat tightened instead. No, I admitted. They really think they can do this, Adrian. They think they can just vote my name off the deed. He nodded slowly. That's what people do when they're used to you bending. They assume you always will. I stared at him. You're very calm about my family trying to steal my home. I'm not calm, he said. I'm choosing not to make this about my feelings so I can focus on protecting yours. Sometimes I forgot that I hadn't always had him, that there was a time no one ever said things like that to me. What did you whisper to her? He asked softly. I gave him a small, sharp smile, enough to remind her that she's not the only one who knows things. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Good. Don't tell me if you don't want to. Just be careful. Careful. That word sat with me the rest of the day. By evening, the doorbell rang. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know who it was. Blake. He stood there in jeans and a faded t-shirt, hands shoved into his pockets, the human embodiment of, I don't want trouble, I just want what I want. Can we talk? He asked. I crossed my arms, leaning slightly against the doorframe. We're already talking. He sighed. Inside? I like having witnesses, I said. Out here is fine. He rolled his eyes but let it go. Look, I know Victoria can be a little strong-willed. I raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling it? But this isn't just about her, he said. It's about our family. Mom and Dad think this is what's best. I think this is what's best. For who? I asked. For all of us, he said like it was obvious. You're just one person. We're a family. We have a kid. We need the space. There's that word again. I tilted my head. Need. You live in a 3-bedroom house, Blake. The rent is expensive, he muttered. Not my problem, I said. You don't even use the second bedroom, he shot back. You could be in a smaller place and it wouldn't change anything. I stared at him, the anger in my chest solidifying into something colder, sharper. Do you hear yourself? I asked quietly. He opened his mouth, then shut it. I let the silence stretch, then dropped my first little bomb. I looked up your lease, I said. His head snapped up. You what? I know you can't break it early without paying 3 months' rent up front, I continued. 3 months on that place? I whistled. That's not a small number. His face went pale. For the first time, he stopped pretending this was about fairness. We're trying to be smart, he said quickly. If we move into your condo, we can save. Get back on our feet. It's a temporary thing. Temporary. Right. Funny how temporary arrangements always seem to become permanent when I was the one giving something up. This isn't about you being smart, I said. It's about you trying to turn my stability into your safety net. He swallowed. You make it sound so cold. It is cold, I said. You don't get to light my house on fire and then ask to come inside because you're cold. He flinched. I could have stopped there, but I'd spent too many years stopping early to keep everyone comfortable. This conversation is over, I said. Do not bring this up again. And tell Victoria that if she tries to walk into my home like she owns it one more time, I'll remind her why the whisper scared her so much. His eyes widened. What did you say to her? I smiled without warmth. Ask her. I closed the door on his surprised face and leaned my forehead against the wood for a second, letting my breath out slowly. The old me would have cried after that, paced the hallway, called my mother to smooth things over. Instead, I walked back to the kitchen, turned my phone over, and pressed play on the voicemail that had come in while Blake was talking. Hi, Evelina, a woman's voice said. It's Jenna Morales from Scottsdale Real Estate. Adrian gave me your number, said you might want to talk. My stomach tightened. Jenna, Adrian's ex, the one who worked in real estate. We haven't met, she continued, but I thought you should know. I saw something come across my desk a while back. Your brother and his wife, Blake and Victoria, they applied for a mortgage last year. I frowned. Okay. They were denied, she said. Bad credit. High revolving debt. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but it's bad, Evelina. Like, we're drowning and won't admit it bad. I sat down slowly. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't just greed, it was desperation. They weren't just reaching for something shiny. They were clawing for a surface while water closed over their heads. My condo wasn't a luxury to them. It was a lifeboat. I thought you should know what you're really dealing with, Jenna finished. If you want to talk more, call me back. And, for what it's worth, Adrian's right to be worried about you in this. People do wild things when they think their survival is at stake. I stared at the wall, hearing Jenna's warning echo in my skull. People do wild things. I didn't call her back. Not yet. 3 hours later, my mother called again. This time, her voice was sugar sweet. We're having a family dinner this weekend, she said. You should come, honey. We just want to talk things through face to face. Face to face, around a table, with everyone there. An ambush in Sunday clothes. I glanced at the framed photo of my condo on the wall, the one I'd taken on the day the mortgage was paid off. I heard Jenna's voice in my head. People do wild things when they're desperate. Oh, I'll be there, I said. When Saturday came and I walked up the path to my parents' house in Tempe, the air felt heavy. The curtains were parted just enough for me to see silhouettes moving inside. They were waiting. They thought they'd dragged the old version of me to that dinner, the girl who apologized for taking up space. They had no idea the woman who was actually about to walk through that door. The moment I stepped through my parents' front door, I knew exactly what this night was meant to be. The house was too quiet, too still. No TV playing in the background. No clatter from the kitchen. No casual small talk. Just the sound of every member of my family pretending this wasn't a setup. Mom greeted me with a smile so sugary it could have rotted teeth. Dad barely lifted his eyes. Blake and Victoria sat together at the dining table, whispering like co-conspirators. But the real giveaway? Mom had pulled out the good china. My childhood brain, still wired to interpret that as company or big news, almost laughed. Tonight wasn't about celebration. Tonight was an intervention disguised as pot roast. I walked into the dining room. Every seat was taken except the one at the head of the table, waiting for me like a trap. I sat anyway. Mom smoothed her napkin and cleared her throat. "Sweetheart," she began, reaching for my hand. "We just want to talk." I let her hold my fingers, even though every instinct screamed to pull back. "We've been thinking about this a lot," she continued, squeezing my hand gently, as if tenderness could soften the blow she was about to deliver. "And we all agree. It's time to do what's best for the family." I stayed silent. "We love you," she said, giving me the kind of look she used to give when she wanted me to agree to something unreasonable. "But it's selfish to keep that condo all to yourself when Blake and Victoria need it more." Victoria nodded, along with a practiced expression of polite suffering. "It's just practical, Evelina. It makes sense." "I see," I said flatly. "So let me get this straight. You want me to just hand over my home?" Dad cleared his throat. "Not hand over. Just let them stay there. Temporarily." "Temporarily?" I echoed. "Well, yes." I leaned back, folding my arms. "And where exactly am I supposed to live?" Mom waved a hand, as though moving your entire life were no more complicated than choosing a different brand of cereal. "You can find a nice little apartment," she said. "A one-bedroom would be perfect for you. You don't need all that space." There it was again. Need. The word people used when they wanted to take something from you without feeling guilty. I took a slow breath. "And why?" I asked. "Can't Blake and Victoria just find a place they can afford?" The room froze. Blake stiffened. Victoria's jaw tightened. Mom looked offended by the very suggestion. "I won't discuss their finances with you," Mom said sharply. "That's not what this is about." "Oh," I said. "I think it's exactly what this is about." I turned to Blake. His eyes darted away. "You applied for a mortgage last year, didn't you?" I said calmly. He froze. "You were denied," I continued, "because of your credit, and because your debt is sky high." Mom gasped. "Evelina, stop making things up." I shrugged. "I'm not making anything up." Victoria slammed her hand on the table. "You had no right digging into our finances." "And you," I shot back, "have no right to take my home." She opened her mouth, then shut it. Blake looked like he wanted to melt into the chair. Mom's stare bounced between her son and daughter-in-law, panic creeping in. "Blake," she whispered, "is this true?" He swallowed hard. "It's not the way she's saying it." "So it is true," I said. He didn't respond. And just like that, the power in the room shifted. I'd seen it happen 100 times in my life. Mom's unwavering loyalty to Blake cracking like porcelain dropped on tile. Not shattered, but fractured. Dad finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell us, son?" "Because they never had to tell the truth," I thought. Someone else always cleaned up the mess for them. I pushed my chair back and stood. "I hope this was worth it," I said, looking directly at Victoria, "because you just lost any chance of ever getting anything from me." Her face twisted. "You'll regret this." "I doubt it," I said. I walked out of that house without looking back. For a moment, for a single fragile moment, I thought it might be over. I thought humiliation would be enough to make them stop. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I came home late from work. The hallway lights flickered overhead as I reached my door. Something felt off, a kind of stillness I didn't like. Then I saw it. Scratches around the lock, paint chipped, metal bent slightly inward. Someone had tried to break in. My heart thudded once, twice. Then it stopped pounding and went cold. I knew exactly who had done it. I didn't panic. I didn't cry. Instead, something inside me clicked into place. Something steady, surgical. I'd spent my whole life surviving chaos. This time, I would control it. I made 3 calls. A locksmith, not just to repair the lock, but to install a peephole camera disguised as a regular door viewer. A security company, new locks, motion sensors, an upgraded system. Adrian, who insisted on sleeping on my couch that night. Then I waited. 3 nights later, at exactly 2:37 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the live feed, and my blood turned electric. Victoria stood at my door, hair tied up, hoodie pulled tight, a screwdriver in hand. She wedged it into the edge of my lock, grunting softly as she tried to force it open. I pressed record. Then I tapped call police. It took them 7 minutes to arrive. 7 minutes in which she kept trying, completely unaware she was about to have her worst night in years. When the officers shouted, "Hands where we can see them," Victoria screamed. Adrian and I opened my door just in time to see her on the floor, face pressed to the carpet, being cuffed. It was surreal. But the part that froze me, the part that made everything suddenly make sense, wasn't the arrest. It was the officer's question. "Ma'am, are you aware you're on probation?" Victoria went still. Probation? My eyes widened. Fraud. Jenna's warning echoed in my mind. People do wild things when they think they're drowning. This wasn't greed anymore. This was survival. Victoria wasn't trying to steal my home. She was trying to stay afloat, and she was sinking fast. As they pulled her to her feet and walked her toward the elevator, she shot me a look of pure hatred. It didn't scare me, because for the first time in my life, I realized something simple and powerful. People who had always considered me the weakest person in the room had just learned exactly how wrong they were. Victoria's arrest didn't just shake the family. It cracked the foundation they had all been standing on. The next morning, before I'd even had coffee, my mother called. Over and over. I ignored the first 5 attempts, then answered the 6th, not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to hear what excuse she'd scramble for. She didn't disappoint. "Evelina," she cried, as if she were the victim, "how could you let this happen?" I waited a beat. Let what happen? "You had your own sister-in-law arrested. She was trying to break into my home. You should have talked to her first." She had a screwdriver in my lock. "That doesn't mean she deserved—" "Mom," I interrupted, "she is on probation. That was her choice, not mine." Mom went silent for a long moment. Too long. Then helplessly she said, "Please, drop the charges. For the sake of the family." I almost laughed. "For the sake of the family," I repeated. "You mean the same family who tried to steal my house? The one who told me I don't need space because I'm just one person? That family? That's not fair." "No," I said, calm as ice. "What's unfair is you expecting me to pay for their mistakes." Before she could argue, I hung up. 15 minutes later, Dad called. His voice was stern, disappointed, like I was the one who'd broken in. "You're taking this too far," he said. "Victoria's a mother. She didn't mean any harm. She was committing a felony. She was desperate." "So was I snapped, when she tried to take my home." He paused, and that pause told me everything. He didn't care what Victoria did. He cared that consequences finally stuck to Blake's side of the family tree. Later that afternoon, Blake showed up at my door. He didn't knock. He just stood there when I checked the hallway camera, shoulders slumped, eyes red, hair unwashed. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "How could you do this?" he whispered. "Me?" I said. "Victoria did this." "You know she's on probation," he said. "This could ruin her life." "It should have ruined her night," I replied. "Breaking and entering is not a hobby, Blake." He clenched his jaw. She panicked. We're drowning, Evelina." "And you tried to use me as your life raft." He didn't deny it. Instead, he said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. Before he left, I asked one question. "Did you know she planned to break into my place?" His silence was the answer. When I closed the door on him, something inside me settled. A weight I'd been carrying since childhood finally slid off my shoulders. For once, Blake couldn't hide behind my parents. For once, he had to face the choices he'd made. Victoria served 3 months in jail. 3 months that reshaped everything. When she got out, she had a criminal record, a probation violation strike, a massive pile of debt, no job prospects. And Blake? He was hit right where it hurt. A background check renewal at his accounting firm flagged Victoria's updated criminal history. Within 2 weeks, they let him go. I didn't celebrate, not then. I simply existed in my own space, my earned space, while the consequences played out. Their landlord raised the rent in Chandler. With no jobs and nowhere to turn, Blake and Victoria were evicted within 6 months. The irony? They moved in with her parents, the same parents she always bragged about, the ones who supposedly had better taste than my entire family combined. Turns out those parents weren't so generous once their daughter came home with a criminal record and an overdue rent bill. Sometime during all this, I mailed them a housewarming gift. A framed photo of my condo. With a note. "Hope you enjoy your new place. Oh wait, you don't have one." I blocked them afterwards. My parents tried, they tried to mend things. Voicemails about forgiveness, texts about family unity, half-hearted guilt trips. I deleted every single one after skimming the first sentence. I'd spent 30 years being the family's safety net. They were shocked, truly shocked, when I cut the ropes. When Blake's 30th birthday rolled around, I did something I'd never done before. I sent him a card. Inside, I wrote, "Some things have to be earned, not taken. Happy birthday." I heard through a mutual friend that he cried when he read it. Good. It was time he learned what regret felt like. Victoria tried reaching out through fake social media accounts, using different names, different profile photos. "Please, Evelina, we're so sorry. Can we talk? We need help." I screenshotted every message, and I sent each one to her probation officer. Harassment is a violation. And I was done playing the family's punching bag. 1 year later, I saw them again, completely by accident. I was in Target, walking through the electronics aisle, pushing a cart full of home improvement supplies, new curtains for the guest room, a beautiful lamp I'd been eyeing, organic groceries Adrian and I were cooking with that week. That's when I saw them, Blake and Victoria, arguing quietly over whether they could afford a basic tablet for their child. Victoria looked tired, worn down. Her hair hung limp, her eyes were hollow. Blake looked older than his age, pale, heavier, shoulders permanently slumped. Their world had collapsed, and they were standing in the rubble together. I could have walked away, but I didn't. I pushed my cart right up to them. Victoria saw me first. "Oh my God, Evelina," she exclaimed, instantly plastering on a fake smile. "How are you?" I looked her up and down. "I'm fantastic," I said. "Just bought some new furniture for my second bedroom. You know, the one you said I didn't need." Blake shifted uncomfortably. "Look, Evelina, we've been meaning to say—" I cut him off. "I hope it was worth it." He blinked. "What?" "The lying, the scheming, the breaking and entering. I hope it was worth losing everything." Victoria opened her mouth to argue, but her voice cracked instead. "We lost everything because of you," she whispered. I laughed, soft, sharp. "No, Victoria, you lost everything because you tried to take what was mine." I leaned in, lowering my voice so only they could hear. "And just to be clear, if either of you ever comes near me or my property again, I won't hesitate for a second. You're one violation away from going back to jail, Victoria. Don't test me." She went pale. Blake grabbed her arm. "Come on, let's go." As they hurried off, I heard Victoria hiss, "This is all your fault. I told you we should have just asked her for money instead." Even in defeat, she still didn't get it. It was never about money. It was about respect, boundaries, and the painful truth that some people believe kindness makes you weak. I watched them turn the corner and disappear behind the cereal aisle. Then I pushed my cart toward checkout. The weight in my chest finally eased. That night, back in my condo, the home I fought for, earned, protected, I cooked myself a celebratory dinner. Steak, wine, fresh vegetables Adrian picked out earlier. I sat at my table, quiet and content. For the first time in my life, I knew no one would mistake my kindness for weakness ever again. My condo is still mine. My life is still mine. And my self-respect? That's something they'll never take from me, no matter how hard they try.